going live.
Namaste everyone, and today I welcome all of you just for this learning session. It's a very short session where we'll know more about the present trends. And what is the present trend? I'm sure all of you will be inquisitive. I'm sure all of you will be inquisitive to know that the present trend is about COVID. Now, we are not supposed to get scared because the present trend is all about COVID, but we are just here to quickly understand what this whole thing is about, the new COVID variant, and what are the ways and means where holistic methods, traditional sciences of Ayurveda, yoga, what do they offer as solutions, mainly preventive solutions? And what's the present new variant called? The present new variant is called JN1. Now you can see a lot of this. You can see some names here, BA2.86, BA.2, etc. We should not be worried about which variant it is. You know about the previous variants also. We called it Omicron and, Delta variants and so many. Now, what is very important when we talk about these variants or COVID is how the body's response to all this is. So, first of all, if I have to just give you a quick insight, variants just show that the transmission of the virus is still in place. And it's important for us to know that many variants like JN1 appear to be highly contagious, but they may not be essentially so, because what we see right now is also there are higher infection levels. People are suffering also, but suffering is not as we saw earlier, a couple of years ago. So though there are COVID cases, we do not see them visit emergency departments. People show respiratory symptoms, but we assume that yes, they have COVID. They can also maybe test positive or negative initially, but symptoms which are mostly respiratory illnesses related are seen in people. So it could be cold, running nose, cough, sore throat, and fever. You can also see probably loss of smell for a while, loss of taste for a while, may not feel also. So here we are not to basically here to discuss what are the signs and symptoms of COVID, because most of you know this. We are here to understand what are the remedial measures which we can offer, right? So vaccination is one such remedial measure which was taken up largely to fight COVID. Now, why do we emphasize on vaccination? It's basically to prevent infection. Is this right? Yes, but the reason is not so. Okay, it's not right to say that it is only meant to prevent infection, but it is basically meant to reduce the impact of the infection on an individual. So that is where it is very important for us to know that we can fight the virus and we do not have to be scared about anything, even if it is a variant. Right now, it is JN1 or some other variant, a little while later might also come up. So therefore, we place some importance to vaccination, and all of us have definitely, undergone that phase also. And when we look at generic recommendations, let us understand what is that you should do to first of all say that you not get inflicted by such a problem. Especially, we are talking about COVID today. Generally keep your discipline, that's very, very important. Maybe look at avoiding certain food items in your diet on a day-to-day basis, especially one which can cause you indigestion. Okay, that's one of the major things which you should understand, because regular food habits are very important. Lack of exercise, lack of sleep are some of the major causes for common problems, including a problem like COVID. Therefore, it's very important for us to keep our immunity in its place. And many of us are very, very used to taking beverages. A cup of tea right in the morning after you wake up may not be the essential way to preserve your digestion, because everything starts from your gut. Okay, so today modern medicine talks about brain gut axis, says that a lot of problems are related to gut, but traditional systems have explored this years, thousands of years ago, and that is where we lay so much of importance on what is known as Agni. and other habituations, could be tobacco, alcohol. These can also cause reduction in immunity when taken on a regular basis. It can be very recreational and very social, then it may not really harm us, but on a daily basis, on a weekend basis, people who are used to should definitely refrain from doing so. Well, mental stress is a major factor. Now, stress responses can create a lot of imbalance at your digestive level, and it can bring in a lot of immune compromise. So because of this, definitely you invite the invaders who are there as viruses to probably trouble you for a while. So these are very generic things which we look at. Now, what is that we can, specifically understand? What are the other things? Let us focus on 4 5 herbs today. Okay, I want to bring all of your attention here. One of the most commonest herb, which is also a kitchen herb, is ginger. Okay, it's a rhizome. So, how can you use ginger to also bring in this preventive approach? Instead of taking a tea in the morning, would you prefer to take something else? So, I'm giving you some insights to say how can you use few things at home, work on your immunity, work on your digestion, work on improving your respiratory health mainly. So, ginger can be used maybe in different forms, but there is one very common way of usage. Maybe take about 2.5 grams or 5 grams of this ginger, just crush it well, add some salt, jaggery. You can take twice a day just before a meal, or 10 minutes before a meal, 20 minutes before a meal. There are definitely some contraindications if you have high acidity or any other related problem. So you need to just understand a couple of things and then probably take this ahead. Similarly, a ginger tea right in the morning, add a very small piece of ginger into water, boil it well, maybe add very small quantity of jaggery into it just for taste. You can also enhance your taste by adding some lemongrass into it and making this lemongrass and ginger tea. So these are some very, very, simple but very effective methods which you can bring into practice on a day-to-day basis. Now, turmeric is one other very common kitchen herb, right? Especially in India, we don't have to talk much about turmeric at all. So you can also use fresh turmeric juice. Most of us are used to dry turmeric powder, but you can also understand that fresh turmeric juice can be very nicely blended with amla or Indian gooseberry and can be very nicely had like a tea in the morning. And the quantity of turmeric is very important here, and therefore you should know that it is used based on the nature or the prakriti of the individual also. Now, a very quick and very effective remedy of turmeric is also to use about half a teaspoon or quarter teaspoonful of turmeric, which can be mixed with the ghee, which is warmed up, heated up, and then taken early in the morning. And the other form is very, very popular. This is the haldi doodh, which all of us know as, where we boil milk with turmeric. Now here I would like to make a mention that most of them just mix turmeric into milk, like you might mix a bomita or any other nutritional supplement into milk. So it's not supposed to be done so if you want the right benefit. So what do? You take a drop or two of ghee, put it on a pan, and put this quarter teaspoon of turmeric into it. Slightly, it kind of gets roasted. So this is called, in Ayurveda, it is said that it is Ghrita Bharjita turmeric. So basically, you do this roasting and then you kind of ensure that it is not burnt, but it's just slightly warmed. And then you can add milk into it and boil it in this pan. So this is how you should actually make the milk with the turmeric, which is your golden tonic. And that's why it is so very well popular, especially in India. So it's one of the wonder herbs which can work very well when used everyday basis. Just adding turmeric into food may not be sufficient. So you want to maintain your respiratory health. Prevention is always better than cure, as you all know. So very, very important. Now we'll go to one other common herb, which is the clove. Okay, so what do we know clove for? If you have a toothache, put a clove in on your, in between your tooth and probably crush it so your pain reduces. This is one of the popular suggestion given, and it works well also, but it depends on the tooth problem. So not diverting, I am trying to bring your attention to the fact that it is a very good uh, you know herb which can really soothe in your throat when you have sore throat. When you just chew a clove, it can really bring down that dry cough and can help soothe your throat. The next way of using it is also to gargle with clove water. So generally, when we say gargling, most of us would think that we can use salt into water, heat, hot water, I mean, but it not necessarily has to be just salt with water. So you can have such options which can be very, very useful, and wonderfully it can treat you, because it has a very large inflammatory, anti-inflammatory property, and it's a very good antioxidant, and therefore it can help alleviate your respiratory problems. So we are also talking about prevention, as I said, and about how you manage your COVID symptoms. Basically, just consider COVID as any other respiratory problem. Do not get panicked because you test COVID positive. That too, now, these days there is no problem at all. You have been vaccinated, and all of us have, probably just we've got immune in this whole episode of COVID, which has happened in a larger way earlier. So the focus on the herbs, yes, is something which you should all know on a day to day basis. But what's very, very important is the daily discipline we follow, because Ayurveda talks about a daily clock. Now, how is it brought in? We talk about Vata, Pitta, Kapha, which are the three elements, the tripod which controls the body, human body, and therefore the Vata Kala, the Pitta Kala, the Kapha Kala, the time zones are very, very essential for us to understand. So when you wake up in the morning, why are you asked to do an exercise? Because the vyayama we talk about, or yoga we talk about, is because there is high kapha in the body at that point of time, and you can really balance the kapha. The physical activity will help you do so. So this is very important, therefore, that we start balancing ourselves based on these aspects of vata, pitta, and kapha. Likewise, in the afternoon, is where we say have a good sumptuous lunch, and instead of that you take a very heavy meal in the night. Now this is going to work opposite to your health, because your agni, or the digestive fire, is so strong in the afternoon that it can digest. You're also physically pretty active, isn't it, when you eat food and you're there awake till evening, at least 9 or 10 p.m minimum, or even 11 otherwise. So it's very important for you to understand why this whole biological clock is important, why it has been designed for us to take care of it, but we start doing things opposite, then it will probably be detrimental to our own health. So very important to understand this daily discipline which people have to bring in. So when we talk about daily discipline, I already mentioned that yoga is one of the very, very important factor. And when we talk about yoga, extremely well known for its benefits to maintain respiratory health, and also to manage when you have a respiratory problem. It could be the same cold, cough, fever, which can be COVID symptoms, or much higher respiratory problems as well. And how pranayama has to be done is very important. Pranayama is regulated breathing, and therefore it's very important for us to know that it can improve oxygenation, it can bring in a better antigen antibody response. Now, what is this? It's you have your body and you have the virus. So it is going to attack your body, and it is going to see whether the body is strong enough to push out the virus or pull in the virus. There are only two things. If you pull in the virus, then you are definitely going to, kind of say, what is the problem I'm going to face? So, likewise, it's important for us to know that the pranayama practices can help us improve our respiratory immunity, improve the kind of antigen antibody response, and therefore protect the body. Some of the common pranayama practices like Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama, Bhramari Pranayama are very, very important. And one is abdominal breathing, which has been highly recommended, especially in people who have the episode of COVID, also who are active, COVID at any point of time when they have the problem. Now, one mention I want to make here is of Brahmari. Now, what Brahmari means, or what people do during Brahmari, is they make a humming sound. Now, while exhaling, they make an humming sound, and it's got a very high benefit, and that's where it helps with neural plasticity also. It can help dilate the blood vessels, enable more oxygenation. That means to say it can deliver more oxygen to your body, and therefore it's a very, very important technique to help improve respiratory health when you are at distress. Not only this, it's a very calming and soothing practice, because of which you can sleep better, and your body needs so much of rest when you're not well, right? People who have undergone this distress, even recently people have had history of COVID, maybe mild, moderate, severe, without great hospitalizations, and we all are thankful that people have not many people have landed up in hospitals. And that's where pranayama practices can also help people at different levels, like I said, mild, moderate, severe cases as well. But yes, at times you need to understand, and you need some care and concern, and also opinion from a doctor to see if you can do some practices. So just with that care, you should enable yourself to practice pranayama like nadi shuddhi, brahmari, and what is also known as another practice which is also known as sectional breathing. So overall, when we look at the road to good health, it is all about how we look at immunity, how we can improvise on our immunity, and how we can stabilize and maintain our immunity. So that's where the goal is to say that we should definitely take care of ourselves. We should understand that it's very important for us to handle ourselves, do whatever we can, probably we should achieve. And it's important for us to know that immunity, immune modulation is going to play a great role. The herbs I just spoke about actually work on the same line. They're all great immune modulators which can help us. And therefore, it's important for us to know the route for good health. And practicing all these aspects can help us reach there, can help us prevent and manage problems like COVID also. And it's just about educating ourselves. So I wish you all good health. We always pray and say that people in the universe should remain healthy and peaceful, which is Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha. So thank you for tuning in, and do post your questions if you have any. We'll always revert back to you with our answers. Thank you. Namaste.